Good evening. It's Sunday, November 10th at 10 p.m. Central Standard Time. You're watching Co-op for Two. Today we're doing something new. We're starting a new series. It may last one episode. It may last forever. I'm calling this Tabletop Mystery Game News. And the idea is that we will discuss newly released mystery games, escape room games, cold case games, those kinds of things. We'll look at current crowdfunding Kickstarter games and maybe new subscription games, and hopefully try to learn about new games as they become available in this space. Let me check in with the chat here. Small group today. I thought we would actually get a larger turnout. YouTube says 8 concurrent viewers. That's less than most of our streams. That sort of surprises me. I thought that this was the kind of thing that might be of interest to people who don't normally watch a playthrough or a review, but would be interested in learning about upcoming games, but that's all right. We've got our normal group here. All right, let me see. This might be a little tricky. We're going to learn how to do this as we go. This is a new format for me, and I'm not exactly sure. Normally I use a tablet. Now I'm going to try to use a laptop to make it a little more easy to go through things. But let's talk about how we're going to structure today's session. I'll talk a little bit about the series and what my approach to it is. Then we'll look at games that are new to retail, like the games you see in front of me. Then we'll go through some Kickstarter games, crowdfunding. We'll talk about some new subscription games and then some other stuff. All right, so let's talk about some preliminaries here. If we enjoy this series, if this is useful and it's not too painful to record, I'm thinking maybe one of these every couple weeks. I probably would have put off this episode since I did a game design diary earlier in the afternoon, but there are a bunch of Kickstarters ending in the next couple days that I thought we'd try to catch. I do want to talk about my general approach to crowdfunding games in particular, and the whole thing of FOMO, fear of missing out, and where I see my job here on this series is. In general, I've complained a lot on this channel about the perverse incentives for YouTube reviewers getting Kickstarter previews and getting early copies of games, and how they're just basically all positive. And these reviewers are like, here's this $300 Kickstarter. It's great. You got to have it. And then the moment it's off their radar, they move along. And I've become very skeptical of these large all-in Kickstarters, and skeptical in general of a lot of Kickstarter stuff. It seems to me that the games that are Kickstarted are frequently under play tested with extra stuff thrown in that is not useful to the game. The shipping costs are high. It used to be Kickstarter was sort of a way to get a good price early before the price went up. Now I really think for the most part, you're paying extra on Kickstarter to get it sometimes early, and sometimes you wait a year and get it. And that's leaving out the whole thing about whether the game actually delivers. Sometimes it doesn't. Anyway, so I'm a little on the skeptical side of this, but I'm cognizant of the danger of, I've said one of the benefits of having a small channel is I can really do very little harm. Some new game comes out, I give it a review, I say I don't like it, it's not going to hurt their sales. But you could imagine a scenario where, especially in this mystery game space, some small indie developer kickstarts a game, and there's very little coverage of it anywhere, and we cover it here, and we say, I wouldn't back it, it's too expensive, it could actually hurt sales a little bit. So I'm going to try to temper some of my natural pessimism and skepticism of these games a little bit, and maybe spend a little bit more time reminding you that people's tastes differ, and unlike a review where I just lean into my thoughts, my personal opinions, we'll try to be a little more open in this series to the idea that different people might like different games, and this series is about discovering games that might not be perfectly up my alley, but might be up yours. And that's one of the reasons why I'd like to do this live and get more feedback from viewers, both about games that look good to you that might not look good to me, and vice versa, maybe hearing about games I may have overlooked, etc. And it does pay to remind you what my biases are towards these kinds of games. My preference is for a game with some real narrative to the puzzles and mystery. I actually like the deduction of these detective story games like Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective more than I like the escape room games, which are very popular and seem to make up the bulk of games these days in this space. And I prefer the escape room games over the pure abstract puzzle games. So those are my biases. So if your tastes lean towards the pure abstract puzzle games, you're going to have to filter what I say through that lens. The other thing I wanted to mention was that I'm happy to take input from anyone on new releases, new games coming to market. And occasionally, or quite frequently, you find on forums and spaces that if a publisher tries to say, here's this new game I made, they get kicked off for spamming or advertising. Well, I don't really feel that way. I feel like if you've made a game, you are welcome to join in the chat or email me and say, here's a new game that I made, take a look at it. The only requirement I have is that if you're mentioning a game, you have to be very clear if you have got a relationship with that publisher, that game, whether you're friends or the publisher, whatever. But once you make that clear, you're welcome to mention your own game here. Mr. Pretty says, what is a pure abstract puzzle game? Well, what I mean by that is that most of the escape room games or puzzle games that we play here on this channel have some sort of storyline that connects the puzzles, that set up the puzzle. You read an introduction, there's a story. There's a story of a murder or a crime, or in some of the less serious games, just a funny little story that ties it all together. But a pure abstract game would be like a puzzle book where each page is a puzzle. And you can imagine all these games on that kind of spectrum where there's a narrative element that might be a big part of it or a small part of it. For me, I like narrative to be a big part of it. All right, so wrapping up the preliminaries here, there are a couple things we have to figure out as we get a feel for how to record this series, how to do this. And one is how much time we should spend on each game. I'm aware that the live streams where there's interaction with the chat can sometimes go on for a long time, back and forth with the chat, waiting for answers. So I'd request of the chat here that you just don't wait for me to ask a question. If you've got comments to make, you just make them, and then I'll periodically check in with the chat and see what you've said. Another question I always have when I review these Kickstarters is, should we just watch the full trailer for the Kickstarter together? I guess it's going to depend on how many of them there are. We'll get a feel for that. But more than most of the videos I do on this channel, I really would love some feedback here about how we can make this format feel brisk and not overstay its welcome. And then another question is, if members of the channel suggest new games that I haven't pre-researched, should we just go and open up a browser and look at them together live? And then the other little thing that I thought we'd do on this channel, there is a Patreon for this channel. I don't have any relationship with any publishers. I don't get preview copies of games. We purchase all the games we play here. I purchased them with help from the Patreon, which is currently bringing in almost $100 a month, which makes it much easier for me to buy experimental games. But one of the things I've been doing is asking the Patreon group when there's a new Kickstarter, do you guys want your money to go towards this? So if we get enough of the Patreon supporters joining these live streams, we can decide live as we look at these games whether you want to back them or not. And I guess that holds for the retail games as well, whether you want to pre-order them or buy them, etc. All right, so we're going to start. We're going to do new to retail games, then we'll do crowdfunding games, then we'll do subscription games and other stuff. So I've got in front of me a bunch of games that are fairly new to retail that I've got my hands on, and it's sort of a mess on this table. Maybe I can clean up a little as we go through these. Let me put these away. We'll start with box 2. Okay, box 2. For those of you who don't know, Neil Patrick Harris, who is an actor, is a big escape room game fan. And several years ago, he put out a game called Box 1. Box 1 got a lot of fanfare, had a large number of fans. I believe I played it live on the channel. I did play it live on the channel, and I really liked it. It's a unique experience, and it's one of these deluxe experiences that would make a great gift. If you're looking for a gift for someone over Christmas, you really can't go wrong with Box 1. On the other hand, I have heard from people who've been playing Box 2 that it's not nearly as good. And maybe that's a matter of being hard to live up to the novelty of the first box. I don't know, but we will play it on the channel. I believe, I know it's sold mainly through Target. You may be able to order it directly from the website, from Neil Patrick Harris's website. And we will be playing this on the channel soon. But if it's anything like Box 1, it's sort of a hybrid game that's sort of hiding somewhat what it is in order to give you a more memorable experience. Okay, that's Box 2. Do we want to look at the back of it? I don't know how we want to do this. It's got some weird insert thing where there's a box inside this box. Your first choice will change everything. Dive into the mysterious world filled with puzzles, secret codes, unexpected twists. Your brain will be put to the test as you join others to solve the ultimate challenge. It does look like a fancy gift. We're so used to getting sort of manila envelopes in this space that it's always nice to get something fancy. Okay, that's Box 2. Next up, a little game called Backstories Alone Under the Ice. We actually played this very recently on the channel and quite enjoyed it. It's got a little gimmick, a little hook, which is that you interact cards by overlaying them and their cutouts. So you've got action cards that have these cutouts, and if you encounter another card, like here's a person, you want to talk to them, you put this card behind this card and you flip it over and you see what it says on the back. So I forget how many, it took us several hours here. We played through it, not much replay value, but only $13 or so for backstories. There's a second box that's in French, hasn't been translated to English, but a huge number of cards here, some quite beautifully illustrated, a fun story, mechanically nice and smooth. I would really recommend this, especially for 13 bucks for a couple hours, suitable for younger audience, mostly a sort of adventure game, a little bit similar to the adventure game series. A little bit of mystery involved here, but fun and maybe nice for a younger group. Okay, next up is Masters of Crime has finally released 3 more boxes. That makes 4 boxes released in total. The other one is Vendetta, where you play a mafia underboss, a mafia investigator, and the gimmick of this game series is that you play as a criminal. Or something like a criminal here. And this one you're playing art thieves. I guess this one maybe undercover person in jail, something like that. We really liked Vendetta. It's a card-based mystery game. You are really trying to solve a mystery. But in addition to this hook of you playing the bad guys, there was a whole bunch, there were several moral choices in Masters of Crime Vendetta that we really enjoyed, and I think the group enjoyed it. I think I did a spoiler-free review of Masters of Crime Vendetta. I am very interested to play the rest of these. I know the group is as well. Let me see if I can... Let's see if we can go through this. Okay, so there's backstories on Board Game Geek, and there's the Masters of Crime series, Shadows, Rapture, Incognito. So there's one more that I think, these just came out. I think there's one more in addition to Vendetta that's been announced, Mosquito or something, but it's not out yet. These are all listed at 1 to 6 players, 2 to 4 hours. That sounds about right. So they've got elements of a cold case game, some evidence and documents, but mostly you're just simply visiting places, talking to people, and opening a couple of secret envelopes. But a little bit of a vibe of suspects or guilty. And did we see how much these are? I believe these are about $18 each. Okay, now, in a very similar vein to Masters of Crime series is the Guilty series. Now, this is the brand new box that's just been released, Guilty Monaco 1955. And what was the previous Guilty? There's one previous one that we've played. Who can remind me what the previous Guilty was? I forget now. We liked it quite a bit. Beautiful art. One of the things that was interesting about the previous Guilty is that it was aimed at a higher age group. This one is 14 and up. I think the other one might have been 16 and up. Again, similar to a sort of Suspects vibe or Masters of Crime, but a real mystery. Houston 2015 was the previous box. Now, what was interesting is when we played Houston 2015, it was a hard case. I did a review of it. We generally really quite liked it. I had a little bit of concern that it might be possible, since you don't see all of the cards here. Part of the gimmick, not the gimmick, the way the game works is you have to choose how to spend your time. You won't see all of the cards. And one of the worries I had is it would be possible, through no fault of your own, to not see enough cards to solve the case. But one of the things it looked like when we played the first box of Guilty is it looked like that the next box was going to be much more family friendly and much easier. But in fact, we've heard from the author of this that this is not only not easier, but harder. That groups are having a harder time solving it, which is music to my ears. So I know the group that plays these games with me is very interested in checking out Guilty, so we'll be playing that fairly soon. One of the things we can decide on these series is what to play in what order. Okay, so that's Guilty Monaco 1955. I think these are the only two that are I know these are the only two that are available, but I don't know if they've got more in the works. I think Guilty is a little cheaper than the Masters of Crime series, maybe $15, something like that. Okay, what else? Let me see. So here's a game that we've been waiting for a while. It's the second game in the Profiler series. This one's called The Ghosts of Brandonsbury. This is an unusual heavy-duty box here. And the previous game in this series was called Missing in the Caribbean. And we were very impressed with that. A very well done cold case game where you're trying to solve a pure deductive case. There's some online elements. This says 2 hours, 14 plus, difficulty 3 out of 5. This just came out, just got delivered. And there's a bunch of games in this series, but they're not natively English. So this is the second one they've translated into English. Missing in the Caribbean we played on this channel and I reviewed, and we liked it quite a bit. This one looks like it's got a little bit of a supernatural vibe. I'm looking forward to playing this one. A little random thing that popped up on Amazon. This series, Murder Mystery Cases, there's another one, Eiffel Tower Murder, and here's a brand new one rated at high difficulty. I don't know that we've played any in this series, but it's quite hefty. It's a cold case game, of course. Looks like it's got some online elements. Lucky Egg, they produce a bunch of these. Whether this is good or not, I don't know. We still have this and the Eiffel Tower one to cover as well. I think there's at least one more in this series. Now, here's something interesting. Melissa said, I played the Eiffel Tower one and it was kind of easy, but nice. Okay. So I'm very curious about these. You can see this says case number 6, so there's a bunch of these. Occasionally these games pop up on Amazon with little fanfare. And what you're looking at here are two cold case games, very similar to this. As a cold case game, this is what we're used to if you buy a Cryptic Killers game or this kind of game or this game. These are cold case games, lots of evidence. You read it in any order and you try to solve a mystery. But here's something that I'm surprised there isn't more of, and this is basically a cold case game with all the evidence. It's just it's printed in book form. This one here is quite big. This is like 100 pages. But you can see it's the same idea. It's the evidence. It's just photographs of the evidence and all bound in a book. It is reminiscent of the old 1930s Dennis Wheatley crime dossier games. And here's another one, similar thing. Now, to me, this seems like a very natural way to do these cold case games that should be much easier, cheaper to produce, and the potential for having a 100-page case. It just seems like this should be the way they're all done. Now, how much do you lose by not having the actual documents? So you play a game like this, you get the actual documents of different sizes, newspapers on newspaper, maps on a big fold-out map, etc. Envelopes with secret stuff. Here it's just all printed in a book, but you can see that the cost of doing this has to be so much lower, orders of magnitude lower than the cost of doing this. And does it really detract by not having the actual documents in different sizes and being able to hold them? I'm not sure. For me, it really does. I think I'd rather have a bigger, longer case for $10 than I would, and you only play these once, than I would to have an envelope with all these physical items. Now, these aren't quite $10. I think these are probably $15 or so on Amazon. But you can see 2 to 3 hours, this one. This one's by a company called Blue Coconut. They have a bunch of cases. Somewhere there's the difficulty level of this one. But I am very curious to try these out and see how difficult they are. They certainly have, both of these, have substantially more pieces of evidence, of text, of writing, than a standard cold case game. I mean, this is very impressive looking for a game that's just come out of nowhere. They're up to 6 cases already. This one doesn't, this one looks a little more iffy, but 100 pages. I mean, a lot of work has gone into this. This one seems to have QR codes you scan, but very impressive looking. I'm very curious to try these out. And then there was one more that's dropped on the floor here. Let me see if I can get it. I think someone in the Discord told me about this. Probably Stacy. Stacy's played so many of these games, but I think Stacy or someone suggested to me Murder by Post. They make a bunch of games, or 3 or 4 games, including this advent calendar. I'm always on the lookout for these mystery advent calendars that aren't super easy. Most of them tend to be super easy for a family. But here is this one, which is a Christmas something. I don't know. It doesn't even say the title. Where is the title? Probably I should have put this under the subscription services games. Okay. Here. Death in a Snowstorm is this advent calendar one. I bought this as a recommendation from someone in the channel, but the brand new one is this one on the far right, Peril at the Edge of the World, a travel murder mystery. And you can see it looks pretty deluxe here. I mean, it's $56. It's not cheap. I think maybe there's a discount if you buy all 3 of these, which is what I did. I'm always looking for recommendations. If someone has played a game and can recommend it, I will normally purchase it. And so here is Peril at the Edge of the World in a fairly small box for 56 bucks. Is there an internet element to this? I don't know. But we may play Death in a Snowstorm over Christmas, and Peril at the Edge of the World. We'll get to it at some point. Okay, so those are the games I've got my hands on recently. Maybe it's worth mentioning also this one, Murderous Muses. We played this recently. It's not super brand new, but it's one of these games that's completely slipped under the radar. And a real hybrid game, sort of a cold case game mixed with a Sherlock Holmes consulting detective style directory that you can use to decide where to go and who to talk to with some multimedia. A little bit of a weird experience, but not bad. I would absolutely play more games from this company. All right. A couple more games are just hit retail, though, and are on the way, but I don't have them yet. And one of these is going to be quite an interest to this group, and that is a new Cryptic Killers game, Murder on Mount Mortimer. Cryptic Killers is a British company. They make some of the most consistently good cold case games we've ever played on this channel, and their harder games tend to be the best. And this is a 4 out of 5 difficulty rated game. It's not yet on the US Amazon, but you can order it if you're desperate for it. If you can't wait a couple weeks till it hits the US Amazon, you can win it. Normally on the US Amazon, it's about 20 bucks. The Cryptic Killers, sometimes they go on sale for even cheaper when they're a real bargain. But I did order Murder on Mount Mortimer from the British Amazon, and Patreon helped pay for that. And that should be arriving this coming week. We'll be playing it. I mean, this has got everything I want. The Arctic expedition, it sounds like. Cryptic Killers, hard game. This is one of our favorites on the channel. All right, are we ready to move on to Kickstarting? Almost. I did want to, let's see, it looks like I've got a couple more. We've played a couple of these side quest games. These are small box escape room puzzle games that cram a lot into a tiny little box. We've played 2 of them. We played 7C, which had a humorous element that I quite liked. And then we played a Nemesis one that I didn't like. The gimmick of these side quest games is they find a board game that exists that has an IP, and they license it, or they work with that company to produce an escape room game set in that world. So Frostpunk is another board game that they've taken that IP, that world, and made an escape room game. And I think they've made another one for Isle of Cats. Those are the 2 brand new ones that's just come out, Frostpunk and Isle of Cats. And there's our Threads of Deceit that I showed you. Okay, 17 bucks. And the other book one was Deadly Secrets, 19 bucks. So not so cheap. Those will come down in price though. Anything that's just a printed book can be sold almost for nothing. Okay. Are we ready to start talking about Kickstarter? Yes, we are. Let's take a little break first, check in with the chat. Any other games that are already delivering in retail that someone has got that I haven't mentioned? Stacy says Deadly Secrets was a boxed game first. I didn't know that. So you're saying they went the route of the Mysterious Package Company, which made these Postmortem LA games, and then they made a book version of it. I think that's the way to go. But actually, we haven't played one yet. I mean, we love the old 1930s crime dossiers, so I think we should enjoy playing the book versions of these games. Some people really like the physical stuff to have their hands on, but I don't think for me it makes that big a difference. I'd rather have a bigger case in a book than a case with lots of different size pieces of paper. So I have a couple more games on my list here that are not delivering yet. But if anyone knows of any other games that they have their hands on that are brand new mystery games, please speak up. What's this? This Pillar has another deluxe-ish game, Supernova, that my son and I have gotten, haven't played yet. I thought that was Hunt-A-Killer. I thought the Supernova was a Hunt-A-Killer. Yes, okay. Just a typo. Someone was saying Hunt-A-Killer was just reprinting Moon Summit and was asking if it's any good, and we were talking on the Discord. I have a couple more big Hunt-A-Killer games that we haven't played yet. We played Blair Witch Season 2 recently, and people said it was terrible, but I really liked it. So it helps to have low expectations with all of these things. Okay, let's start section 2 here, the crowdfunding. All right, and this is the part where we're going to have to figure out how we do this. Here's the first crowdfunding. I think I've got about 4 crowdfunding games to mention here. Ministry of Lost Things. Okay, so 3 days to go. $26. You can see it's a puzzle game, but this is the same group and company that makes the Morrison Game Factory. Rita Orlov, Light in the Mist. So we play the Morrison Game Factory, and we really liked it. There's some clever puzzles, some really wonderful stories, some internet components. Very charming. I would say, in addition to the art and puzzle quality, this developer has a real feel for making these charming games, and you can see this one has got that vibe to it, and it looks quite cute, charming. All right, so I think maybe we'll watch this little preview here together. I don't know if we should be watching all these Kickstarter preview trailers, but let's see what it's like if we watch it together. Let me see if I can make sure I can hear it.
For decades, physicists have theorized about wormholes, portals to other dimensions, but few know the truth. These portals exist everywhere, most frequently found in dryer vents. Yes, you heard that right. These portals are primarily located in ordinary places, behind bookshelves and lost and founds, and even between your couch cushions. So if you can't find your umbrella or your remote has wandered off, it's probably just in the Elusiverse, the place where all lost things end up. But sometimes, items make their way here by mistake, wreaking havoc on reality as we know it. The Ministry of Lost Things is here to keep order, and we need your help. Investigate items, identify their rightful owners, and ensure their safe return home. At first glance, this may appear to be another delightful tabletop puzzle game.
Tiny little box.
And it is. But it's also our only hope of preserving the fabric of space-time. Will you help restore balance to the Elusiverse? The Ministry of Lost Things is not liable for any unintended cosmic events, such as minor reality tears, sudden shifts in elusive constants, or the spontaneous formation of mini black holes in your laundry room. By engaging in Molt activities, you accept full responsibility for any transdimensional anomalies or unexpected reunions with lost items. Sudden eruptions of nostalgia may occur. Seek immediate attention from your primary physics provider if a temporal paradox lasts for more than 4 hours. Scouts are advised to carry an extra lint roller at all times. Lint rollers sold separately.
Okay, so I did want you to notice, though, that you might think you're getting a big box like the Morrison Game Factory, but in fact, this is a box about this size, a tiny little box. So let's see how much they are asking for the Ministry of Lost Things. Okay, so $26. If you don't own the Morrison Game Factory, you could combine it in here for $59. Okay, $26. But now let's see. The thing I always feel like the Kickstarter sneaks in while you're not paying attention is the shipping costs. Okay, $4 US shipping. That's not bad. So my guess is you'll be able to buy this for about the same price, maybe a little cheaper once it hits retail in a year, but 26 plus $4 for shipping, $30 or a little bit more if you're in Europe is really not a bad deal. And given how fun Morrison Game Factory was, how cute it was, well, whether it's a reasonable to me, we don't have to worry about. I did back it. I figure we will play it based mainly on the reputation of Morrison Game Factory. But I don't have huge hopes to love it, but I do like how charming it is. All right. What's next? Any thoughts on that? So I would normally ask the channel now if you think we should back it for the channel and play it, but I've already backed it. Melissa says that's a lot of things in such a small box. Okay, let's move on to our next item, the Magnus Protocol Mysteries. All right, let's watch our little trailer here.
Rusty Quill presents, in partnership with Indie Boards and Cards, a new way to step into the Magnus Protocol universe. Hey guys, it's Johnny here. We are so excited to bring you the Magnus Protocol board game. This game is super immersive. It's just like listening to an episode of the podcast, but you get to be the main character. Why would anyone want to be the main character of one of our shows? Who knows? That's between you and your friends. During the game, you'll have documents to read, audio to listen to. It really makes you feel like you're doing work for the OIAR, researching all those horrible cases. Any number of people can work together to solve the mystery, and you can play it by yourself, alone, in a windowless office at night. I mean, the horrors will get you either way. We partnered with Indie Boards and Cards for this project, who you might know as the team behind some super amazing games like Coup
Does anyone
and
know
and the lead
this
designer is a
podcast
long-time Magnus fan
and
from way
talk
before this
about
game
whether
was even a
it's
concept.
good or
So we
bad?
really trust them to make a
It
product
does
that
have a real
appeals to
horror
the fans of our
vibe, but there's not
podcasts.
much in
So yeah,
this trailer.
we are really excited about this game, and we hope you are too.
Okay, so let's take a look at what this is. It's based on a podcast that's got a little supernatural vibe. Dispamonite says, I know it and I love it. Okay. Now, this concerns me a little bit. Whether they're going to finish this. So look at what they're offering here. Okay, so it's their game. It's a cold case mystery game with multimedia elements. They've got a well-established podcast, so they have a good track record. But look at what they're selling here, or what they're promising. This is part that throws me a little bit. Okay, it's not one case. It's 3 cases in a set of 3 separate cases. And then and then 3 more. So you can buy 6 cases. Now, where is their, okay, single case $20, 3 cases $50, 6 cases $90. The problem I have is, how are they making 6 cases? I mean, that should take them years to make 6 good cases. That's the part that I have trouble with. All right, let's look at their time. We've been working on creating these since 2024, this year. The first 3 are almost completely done, ready to go to print. The remaining 3 are well along in their development and will be ready to get into the hands of our play testers before the end of the year. That seems very ambitious to me. And then it says, we'll use that time to get everything ready and then to our fulfillment centers to be shipped to you well before the end of 2025. So, and then here's their timeline, which seems very weird to me. This list here says all 6 cases completed and graphics ready for final play testing in 2024. That's ridiculous. That makes no sense. So I don't see how that could be the case. But then they're planning to have it all graphics ready for playtesting in December 2024. Then by March, all 6 games will have been fully playtested. And then the next month after playtesting, production begins. This does not seem at all realistic to me. But then it's not going to deliver till September 2025. So I have some strong doubts about this timeline. I can see them finishing it by the end of 2025. The details of this timeline part seem completely wrong to me. But it feels to me like this is one of these ones that could be quite a bit delayed. $90 for 6 games, though, that's a bargain if they actually follow through and make all 6. I had to guess, I would guess that this is going to be one of these games that are not going to be, like, I don't see how they can make 6 good games in this timeline for this cost. So, you know, this is where the Kickstarter fear of missing out and gambling addiction kicks in, and you say, oh, let me buy this. If 1 game is good, surely 6 games is going to be great. I have my real doubts here. But I like the vibe. I like the horror vibe. Okay, let's look at what the shipping is. So for 6 cases, $20 shipping. That's not too bad. It's all fungible, though. So just look at the total price. $110 for 6 cases. A little under $20 a case, about on par with Cryptic Killers or anything else. So not a super bargain, but not super expensive. I just have my doubts about them actually finishing all 6 cases at any reasonable time. And I would just give you my general thing for most of the games on Kickstarter. If it's great, they will be selling this retail. So is there really any need for you to back it now instead of buying it when it comes to retail? Objectively, it doesn't feel like there is. But on the other hand, it's exciting. I like this world. I want to support them. If there's any question about whether they actually produce and get these games finished, I'd like to encourage that. And mainly because of the Patreon money, I have backed this game. I have my doubts about whether it'll get made and how many years in the future it'll get delayed. but the Patreon folks said to back it, so we backed it. All right. Dispamonite says it's this company that the podcast is a British institute that's been around since 1800 to investigate horror stories. So presumably you can go listen to the Magnus Protocol podcast and see if it's up your alley. All right, let's move along. What's next? Oops, that's not what I wanted. Okay, next up is this sci-fi Star Trek cold case game, escape room game. So it's 2 games. One is Picard Murder on the Titan A, and the other one is Strange New Worlds Mary Celeste, an escape room game. So the first one's a murder mystery game. The second one's an escape room game. I believe what they mean by murder mystery game is a little bit of a cold case game and a little bit of augmented reality. And I'll talk about that in a second, but let's watch this trailer together.
Oh, hi! Todd Stashwick here. I play Captain Liam Shaw of the starship Titan on Season 3 of Star Trek Picard. I am here to talk about the Star Trek Picard murder mystery game called Murder on the Titan A. Good title, right? Brought to you by my good friends over at Beetle and Grimm's. Now, in the game, you will play a Starfleet intelligence officer investigating the murder of a Klingon dignitary aboard my ship, the Titan. Since Shaw is the primary suspect, you are going to have to clear my good name. And I personally want to thank you ahead of time for that. And you will then have to bring the real killer to justice. The game comes with a Starfleet communicator. You can scan it with your smartphone. It will unlock augmented reality elements that will allow you to solve the mystery, such as directions from yours truly, the dashingly handsome Captain Liam Shaw. You will also pore over the records of other suspects investigating crime scenes aboard the Titan. It's okay, baby. It's okay, baby. I only have eyes for you. In a game designed for 1 or more players for 2 to 3 hours of amazing game night. You do not have to be a Star Trek expert to solve the mystery. But if you are a Star Trek fan, you will love the lore that is woven throughout. So, boldly go. Jump in on the Kickstarter and be the first to play.
Okay, so no discussion of the second game, just the first one. As I mentioned, a little bit of augmented reality, and the game they reference there is a game that we haven't played. So let's see, $38. That's an expensive game, not including shipping. Let's look at the cost before I show you the other one. All right, $38 for this game. And then the Mary Celeste is $58. Is that right? And then if you want them both, $88. So boy, that is an expensive game. Let's see what it's involved here. So this is the writer of the Mary Celeste. So here's Murder on Titan A. Game manual, maybe we want to look at that. Let's see, stage 1 elements, stage 2 folders. Okay, 5 personnel files, 5 security incident statements, couple reports. So a fairly thin cold case game, maybe about average, maybe on the small side. But of course it does have the augmented reality stuff. I don't know how much is a gimmick, how much really adds stuff. Okay, so now This is the augmented reality game that we have some knowledge about. So the producers of this Star Trek murder mystery augmented reality game made a game called Murders at Karlov Manor, which was another IP borrowed game. It's right here. You can see it here. And I have it here. I bought it a long time ago, but we've never played it. It's basically the same idea. They've created this cold case game with a little bit of augmented reality, and they've tied it to Magic the Gathering IP. You do need a tablet or a phone to play it. It does feel like it's got some reasonable quantity of documents in it. But if we're interested in backing that one, we might play this one to see what the general level of quality is. I do fear that this is one of these things where these IP games sometimes are a little less in quality because they know people will put up with it just to have the IP. On the other hand, the science fiction murder mystery games are few and far between, and it is quite, I am a Star Trek fan, it is quite a cool idea to be able to play a game in the Star Trek world, so maybe it's worth it a little bit for that. On the other hand, that Magic the Gathering one can now be found for $20. I wouldn't be surprised if this one wasn't available cheap soon after release. Okay, but 38, that's not trivial. But now let's see when you add in shipping, and then let's see what this Mary Celeste at 58 is. Why is this so much more expensive? 90 to 180 minutes for the Mary Celeste. What about this one here? 90 to 180 minutes. I mean, if it was really 180 minutes, well, $58, that's a lot to play. Okay, let's see. Here's the Mary Celeste contents. Dry erase pens, acetate sheets for notes and puzzles. It just doesn't seem like it's that much. And this looks like, well, I guess you could say on one hand, this is just your standard escape room puzzle type games. How much narrative is there here? A little bit. Spencer Beebe, who has a YouTube channel where he discusses puzzle games and has one of his own, which we'll be looking at in a second. I guess he was one of the designers on this. Let's see, who's credited as the designer on this? Ann Tibbetts. Ann Tibbetts is the writer of Murder on the Titan A, that first one that we looked at. Is Spencer the author of the Mary Celeste? Looks like augmented reality in this one as well. Primary puzzle designer for the Mary Celeste is Spencer. Okay, let's take a look at add-ons autograph. All right, let's take a look at shipping. I want to see what the extra cost of shipping is. Per game, $15. See, here's where I start to balk. This is where I start to say, nope. $15 per game shipping. So if you bought both of these games, it would cost you $88 plus $30. That's just $120 basically we're looking at. $120 for 2 games. two games like this that will probably be able to buy for $15 each. It's just a bridge too far for me. Now, as we said in the beginning, I mean, your mileage may vary depending on how much you like the augmented reality stuff, how much you like Star Trek. If you have any fears that this might not get made, then maybe it's worth it to you. It's hard for me to swallow, though. $30 shipping for two games. Now, I mean, as the thing is that the shipping costs are fungible. So really you shouldn't spend too much time saying, oh, the shipping is high. If this was half the price, then then it wouldn't matter so much. But it's just the total cost. The total cost of $120 for these two games, each of which you play for a couple hours, is just and we don't know how good they are, is probably makes it not for me. On the other hand, this is a perfect category of things that the Patreon supporters, if no real trailer for Mary Celeste game either. Let's see what this looks like.
Use the AR badge to activate the handheld computing device, which has features that allow you to troubleshoot communications and decipher alien languages. Things that may come in handy. Use the AR features to reveal hidden clues within the game. Use your cadet badge to trigger an augmented reality interface that allows you to control a DOT-7 drone. See what it sees as it explores the Mary Celeste.
Okay, well, you can imagine some people who really love Star Trek could really get a kick out of all this. And maybe look into reviews of Murders at Karlov Manor, or maybe we could even play Murders at Karlov Manor to see what kind of experience it is. I'm not a huge fan of the AR stuff, so I don't know. But let me pause here for a second and say this. So you've heard me already say that to me, it feels like for the cost, it's not quite for me. But if there are those of you in the chat who are Patreon supporters of this channel, if you feel strongly that this is a game that you want the channel to back and play, you let me know. One of the real benefits of having Patreon support for this channel is that we can afford to back some things that maybe I normally would be too hesitant to back. So if there are people in the channel who are members of the Patreon and want your money to go towards that because you really want to play Star Trek games, you let me know and we can back it. Which is not to say that we won't purchase that at retail if it comes out and drops in price. Looks like people are on the same wavelength as I am. One of the problems with these kinds of discussions is there is definitely a groupthink where we all get on the same page. So for now, it looks like there's no clamoring to back this. Marlene says retail. Okay, I would happily play the sci-fi mystery games if they were a little cheaper. All right, let's move on. What's next? Oh, there is our rule book here. Let's see. Can you see this? Yes. Okay, let's see. Playing the game. Okay, the rule book is... There's nothing to it. All right, fine. Okay, this one I kind of think I'm in the same boat here. This one looks a little more appealing to me. This is Owner Unknown. 53 hours to go. How Control Shift tab goes back. Yes. Okay, let's see. The Star Trek one was, how much time do you have to decide on a Star Trek one? 12 days. Okay. All right. Owner unknown. 3 unique escape game experiences. 53 hours. So I didn't back this one. I know Stacy backed it. And Stacy, have you played another game from this company? Is that how you know it's good? But let's take a look at it. So 3 games, 3 boxes. The Stalker. Discover a mysterious suitcase filled with photos. Unravel the chilling enigma in the Stalker. 2.5 hours. Playable 2 to 6. So I know in the Puzzle People Facebook group, there's some discussion about really why does it say you need 2 players when they're playable solo. This is not an American company. I don't know where they're from. But then here's the Drifter. I like the sounds of these games. They sound like sort of murderer killer things. How can someone just disappear? How do you end up on the streets in the first place? We can no longer ask him. He's vanished without a trace. Nothing is what it seems. Okay, and then the Vitologist. Looks like a little hunt-a-killer lock type thing. 2.5 hours. Okay, so reasonably long cases. 3, they're in Dutch originally. We're told that even though it says 2 to 6 players, you can play these all solo, which is good. Okay, now shipping to the US, 24 pounds. 24 pounds, so upwards of $30 in shipping costs to the US. If you're in the Netherlands, only 8 pounds. I don't know exactly what that translates to US dollars, but it's more than $24 shipping. And the cost, 58 pounds for one of these boxes. Euros. Okay, euros. 58 euros for one box. All 3, 165 euro. $177 plus $30 shipping. So $200 for 3 games. That is pushing it for me. And this just says shipping costs flat fee. It doesn't say it's surely not per game. But look, estimated prices for 1 or 2 games. So if you buy all 3 games here for $177, it's going to be more than $30 shipping. Maybe $40, $50 shipping. So maybe you're looking at $220 for 3 games without knowing if any of them are any good. That is really pushing it for me. I mean, that is a real gamble. Pushing it is not the right word. That is really... So this is a perfect example of if it's my money, this would be too much for me. And it's always, this is how these Kickstarters get you, because really we don't know anything about the quality of these games. The most sensible thing would be like, maybe one is good. Maybe we just get one of them and see if we like it. And then if we like it, we get more. But if it's $30 to ship from the Netherlands, then you really feel like, well, I better get them all. So for me, with this untested thing, do they say when they expect to deliver it? February 2025 for the first one. So I would be very hesitant to spend that amount of money on these unknown things with this high shipping. Of course, it's not going to get that. It's unlike unlike the Star Trek game, which would definitely make it to retail in the US at a lot cheaper. There's every likelihood that you would have to order this game from the Netherlands eventually anyway. It's not going to come to US retail. So it's not like, I'm not sure this will ever get that much cheaper. And there is one more thing we need to say about these costs. There is a fairly brisk market for these used games. Now, these games don't tell you. Some of these games, you destroy part of the elements when you play. Can we watch a trailer of this?
Hi there. We're so excited about our Kickstarter and really thrilled that you're considering
these are pretty
helping
big
us
boxes.
make Owner Unknown a reality. Over the past few days, we've received a lot of messages from people who are interested in pledging for Owner Unknown, but have one big question. What's inside the suitcases? And yes, that's a fair question. Of course you want to know what you're getting before making a pledge. A big part of the success of our games is the element of mystery. We don't want to spoil the fun moment you'll have when you receive your copy for the first time, open your suitcase, and then see what's inside. But we get it. You want to make sure it's worth your pledge. So without spoiling too much of the fun, here's what we can share. Each game is uniquely crafted, offering a variety of puzzles that range from mind-bending brain teasers and logical challenges to more interactive, hands-on tasks. You'll engage with mysterious and sometimes unexpected physical components, and some puzzles will even take you online, enhancing the overall experiences with immersive digital elements. These physical and digital elements come together to create an unforgettable adventure that keeps you guessing until the very end. Each game has a unique story with its own unique puzzles. So honestly, they're all very different from each other. And if you want more insight, check out the reviews from the players who have played the games before in Dutch. At the end of the day, we want to bring these games to escape lovers worldwide. But we can only do that with your help. So, as a game lover and enthusiast of escape rooms, please consider helping us make Owner Unknown a reality. Thank you so much.
Sounds like the
for your
games
time
already
and
exist in
support.
Dutch.
We
I mean,
can't
that's a
wait to
good
share this
sign in
adventure with
terms
you
of
guys.
whether it will get finished. So I wanted to finish my thought about used. So there is a good market for these games used as long as things don't get destroyed. It's not clear here. That kind of looks like maybe something might get messed up. But as long as they don't have items that get destroyed, then two things are possible. One is you can sell it and recoup half your money back. And the other is that you could buy it used. And so one option would be to wait until someone we know has bought it, backed it, and then we could buy it used, trade for it, etc. But the other thing is, it's something to consider when you're considering cost, because if it costs you $220, $230 to buy it, but you can sell it for half that, then it's really only costing you half that. So that's something to consider. All right, so I have not backed this. It's too expensive for me. But I could absolutely see this being a game that the Patreon supporters want us to back and buy. So I'm not sure we have enough Patreon supporters of the channel in the chat here, but if we do, what do you guys think? Do you want to spend your Patreon money on backing this? Do you want to? Stacy, did you back this entire set? And if so, would you consider selling it used to us after you finish it? One of the problems, though, with coordinating this trading and selling is that everyone who plays these games has a big backlog. It could be a year before Stacy goes through these. So there's that. So we could wait for Stacy to play it, tell us if they're good. Maybe we could buy them used from Stacy. Or maybe the channel just wants the excitement of buying it if we're all working together. I mean, $220 is a high price for one person. But if there's a whole bunch of us backing it with Patreon money, then it's, you know, a couple months of Patreon. So are there Patreon backers of this channel that would like to back Owner Unknown, that think it's worth spending your Patreon money on this? How many days do you have left? 2 days to decide, 52 hours. I'm not sure we have enough Patreon backers here in the chat, so maybe next time, or give that some thought. Let me know. Post on the Patreon. Maybe if you're on the fence about joining the Patreon for this channel, this is a good motivation to do so. All right, let's move along. What's next? That's not what I wanted. Okay, so we said Spencer Baby was the Beeb was the one of the puzzle designers for the Star Trek game. Well, he's got his own puzzle game out called Squirrels Gone Wild. Let's watch the trailer for this.
Once upon a time, in a peaceful park, on a beautiful morning, there was a little squirrel who was totally freaking out.
Oh, hey, yeah. Oh, thank goodness you're here. Oh, I need some help. Oh, man. My ex-girlfriend Lucy got mad at me, and now I'm in serious trouble. Okay? She snapped, I tell you. She's totally out of... Hey, do you guys feel that icy chill all of a sudden? Let's continue this conversation somewhere else. So anyway, if you can find it in your heart to lend a hand to a desperate squirrel...
Guess we're not going to get too much
I'll let this guy
about
explain
the
the rest.
content.
Hi there. There is a tabletop puzzle game coming to Kickstarter. It is all about helping out that little guy. And it is silly and clever and adorable, but we need lots of Kickstarter backers to be able to make it.
So please join us to learn more about...
So I've never play tested in a fully themed room before, but I don't think I could go back after this. I highly recommend theming your game specifically around a room that exists at Geeky Teas in Burbank, and then you can have the coolest playtest of your life.
Okay, so let's take a look at the details here. 26 hours to go. Now, Spencer has made a game. I know Stacy has played it, that I haven't played and really enjoyed Spencer's previous game. Now, what is it? Can you get it as part of your pledge here? Yes, Lost in the Shuffle. I believe Lost in the Shuffle was a puzzle game in the form factor of a deck of cards. Is that right? With a puzzle on each card. And very highly regarded game. I haven't played it. Okay, so let's see. So this one here, 35 bucks. Or get it with Lost in the Shuffle for 52. Let's see what the shipping costs are. Okay, $8 to the US. Not bad. All right, so total cost 35 plus 8, 43. That's still pretty high for a puzzle game from my standpoint. Now, this isn't quite, I'm not the perfect audience for this, because I tend to like my puzzle games more like the serial killer, scary, people are getting killed and die, rather than humor and puns and stuff like that. But we have played some that are quite cute, and getting humor right is a tricky order, and the people that can do it, sometimes it really is a fun experience. Let's see what we got. Game is comprised of a narrative intro booklet, A4 size scrapbook with letters, Polaroids, postcards, map. Okay. So basically your fairly standard puzzle escape room game, but it feels like really it's the humor that's either going to sell you on this and make this something that you really can't wait to get your hands on, or not. It's not quite my cup of tea. I know, Stacy, you're backing this. Is that right? I mean, you can see why this might, if you've got a younger group, this might be the right thing to do. Stacy says she's definitely backing it. Good people. I believe it. December 2024 manufacturing begins. Okay, so July 2025 they expect it to ship. And here's our designers here. Retail friendly pricing after the campaign. So this could be something that we might pick up in retail, or we need to set up just a pipeline to Stacy. Stacy plays all these. We'll just set up our Stacy pipeline so we get the used copy after Stacy finishes with it. All right. What else have we got? So here is something I mentioned on a previous live stream, which is a weekend. This is, I think this is the Joe Smedley red herring. Joe Smedley is the prolific mystery game writer. She's written a couple books on making mystery games. She's responsible for Cozy Killer Games. And this is one of their live weekends, which they do as in-person events, but this one is a virtual weekend. So you sign up. It's scheduled for February 2025. Over the course of a weekend, let's see, Digital Weekend is exactly what it says it is. Fully Digital Weekend, we run the entire series of events through Zoom meeting, meaning no matter where you are, you could join in. So you basically join into these Zoom meetings and you can interview suspects both evenings, 7 to 9 p.m. Okay, so 4 hours of live sitting, talking to people. The murder mystery is acted live. You'll be given the chance to interrogate actors who take on the role of suspects during the weekend. So this is a very unique experience. Solo or household tickets are per screen. So the whole house can get together and sit in front of a screen. Let's watch the trailer here, see if there's anything to watch. Okay, just a generic thing. I'm not going to keep watching it. It's just what we read. But let's see. So no shipping here, purely digital. So you don't have to worry about paying shipping. $52, 40 pounds for a weekend ticket. You can play with your whole family sitting in front of the computer. That sounds like a fairly deluxe special experience. I can see it's not quite for me, but you could imagine some people would absolutely love this. Now, one thing I wonder, it's going to depend on how many people sign up for this. Oh, I see. You do have to have something shipped to you? Why are you paying 20 to 34 pounds? What are they shipping you? Let's see. Digital or physical pack? Choice is yours. Physical case, file, box, you'll get more. Okay, so there are some actual documents you get too, but you can choose to take it in digital form. So you wouldn't have to pay for shipping. Okay. But you can see this would be a special experience. Certain people love this kind of thing. All right, let's look at what's next. Okay, so we're now moving past the Kickstarters. That means we should take a break here. And we're moving into subscription-based stuff. We're wrapping up this session. Looks like we're at an hour and a half in. Probably another 20 minutes. This first episode of Tabletop Mystery Game News is probably a little longer than most because we're trying to cram in all this new stuff. But if we do it regularly, these will go a little quicker. Okay, so there are two mail-based. I am a huge fan of mail-based games, as you know. There are two mail services that we've talked about on the Discord. This first one is called Scare Mail. $100, $107, told over 24 letters, 2 per month. This is not a game per se. This is more like a scary story told through correspondence. But if you're a fan of getting a letter in the mail, this one seems pretty cool. Now, I know we have people on the Discord who have subscribed to this and are enjoying it so far. Marlene is subscribing. She says, so far, I like Scare Mail. I'd be tempted to subscribe to this and maybe read the letters on the channel. I like this idea, but maybe Marlene will let me know how it goes, how she continues to like it. A couple people on the channel have subscribed to this. But there's another one that looks like a little more of a game. So let's look at the Forge Post, the Fear Eater Files Murder Mystery. So this is very similar, 24 mailed envelopes, 2 per month for 12 months, same format. Except this one has more of a gamey element, 23 riddles building towards one larger theme mystery. Accompanying website, pre-recorded podcast segments, voice notes, interrogation snippets, additional content, real puzzle delivered with each mailing. This one is, it was $110 at some point, I think. It's $139 now. I don't know if I'm mistaken that. I thought it was around the same. Yeah, no, it was $100 at some point. It's jumped up to $139. This one is not yet shipping. I believe the idea is that it will start in January. Is that, I believe, at the start of the year. I am very tempted to try this one, just because I like the horror, scary story, and that this one is framed a little more as a game. Marlene says, Scare Mail is a story, this one's a little more of a game. So I think I'm inclined to purchase this one, though I wouldn't mind if it wasn't back to its $100 price. Both of these, Scare Mail and this one, are experiments with play-by-mail, mail-based thing from some experienced horror writers. I think this is a sort of a website of multiple authors selling their own direct horror books. So what do the Patreon supporters feel about backing the Forge Post? One thing we'd have to figure out is if they're going to mind me reading these letters on the channel twice a month. Dear Holmes, which we'll return to next week, is quite happy with us doing that, but I'm not sure every company will be. Theo says, I want a mystery game which does not require me to wait for a month. Well, I'm the opposite. I love the fact that these games, mail-based games, force you to stretch out the experience. All right, well, we'll talk about this in the Discord. We have another month to decide before it starts, but I'm inclined to purchase that, back that. Is there anything else? What have we got? I keep doing the wrong button. Oh, okay. All right, so I think that's it for my subscription service stuff, but there are a couple more games that board games that are just about to release. So let's look at a couple of those. Here's one that's sort of mystery story adjacent that I thought the channel might be curious about. It's called Until Proven Guilty. And the first case here is called The Starry Sky Necklace. This is a one-time mystery game playthrough, but with some unique hook here that this is a legal case. So we've seen medical cases now, and now here we have a legal case, a narrative cooperative game. You take on the role of a brilliant lawyer who's still a rookie involved in complicated criminal trials. Can you help him defend his client? Each turn, read the trial card, choose an evidence card to refute it. Enter the evidence number on the web, read the results. Some jurors will side with you and you can continue the trial. If it's wrong, some jurors may side with your opponent and you have to try again. So it's basically a mystery and you're trying to convince jurors. It looks like there's some little actual prop here where the jurors are on your side or against you. I understand you basically only play it once and then the story's over, but it doesn't look like anything is destroyed. But I am very curious about it. I have pre-ordered it. We will play it on the channel when it arrives. I'm very curious to see if they can pull off what it looks like to have a legal mystery. All right. Next up is a new box of perspectives. This is Matthew Dunstan and Dave Neal's game, The Orange Box, which is behind me on the wall here, and Greg and I reviewed. Was quite a clever little box where each person around the table gets a big oversized card with text and images, and they try to reconstruct a mystery, solve a mystery by sharing information on what's on their cards without showing each other the cards. It's a twist on solving a mystery game where each person only has limited information. It's quite a unique experience. I loved the first case in the orange box. I sort of didn't feel quite as positively about the other two cases, but I am curious to see what their sophomore effort here looks like. It looks like it's basically not going to change any of the mechanics to me. But I know we've got some people in the channel that really enjoyed the first box and we'll be playing this one. You can't play this solo, though. You absolutely need at least one other person. That makes it a little harder for me to play. But I am curious to hear what the rest of you think. I think this is coming out, due to be out this month. Next up, a couple games that I don't know too much about, but I've stumbled across on Board Game Geek that look interesting to me. This is a new series called Lost in Adventure. It looks like it's one of these card-based exploration games, lighter than something like Seven Citadel, just a small little box, but maybe closer to Backstories, Alone Underground, or the adventure game series where you've got objects that you can interact as you unfold the story, go to different locations on cards that you lay out. These are these little games that are consumable. Play it for a couple hours one evening and it's over, but they appeal to me. Like I'm a good audience for these little diversionary games. Okay, it's not going to let me zoom in on that. But anything, this whole Robinson Crusoe vibe of tools and using tools to have little adventures, I'm in. Here's another little piece of news in the tabletop mystery game space. Deadbolt Mystery Society, that makes very dark escape room games that we've played dozens of on this channel, very adult in nature with killers and murder, have started to release a couple of games aimed at kids. Young Detectives Arcade Crimes and Young Detectives Mysteries Under the Big Top. So it looks like same system staged in acts, but obviously not murders and death. So these are games that won't be for me, may not be for the main viewers of this channel, but if you've got kids, I'm quite impressed in general with Deadbolt Mystery Society writing and puzzles. So maybe worth checking out if you've got younger kids. All right, is there anything else for us? Someone mentioned on the Discord this new Sherlock Holmes game and called The Phantom's Hour, and it's called an online escape room. It's $32. Now, what is an online escape room? Well, it turns out it looks like it's basically just a computer game that you would find on Steam. $32 is a little high for that price, but if it's good, it might be worth it. But you can see it's a fairly high production, playable through your browser, I guess. But on a mystery game. There are a bunch of Sherlock Holmes point-and-click adventures that you can get on Steam. This looks a little bit more like puzzles and escape room, but it looks pretty high production if this is up your alley. No physical stuff. It's all digital, all on the computer, if that's of interest to you. Let's see. Okay, two more things I just wanted to show you, then we're all done here. In the category of not a new game, but a new thing of interest to those of you interested in this type of thing, Eric on Board Game Geek, Eric 1984, has posted a new set of business cards for Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective. If you're a fan of Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective game, you can download from the Board Game Geek file section for the Thames Murders these business cards and print them out and use them while you play Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective. It's one card for each ally. They're beautifully illustrated. And then the last thing I wanted, then this I talked about before. This is, I'm curious if people think we should back. The Dark Quarter is an app-based supernatural New Orleans mystery type game that's 2 years old, but is going to start delivering in the next month or so, I think, soon. And I'm very tempted by it. And it's coming to retail. You could pre-order it. It's about $50-$60 for the base game and then another $50 for an expansion. But you could still pick up Kickstarter copies on the third person market and get this bonus case and some deluxe components. And it's heavily app-based with some very strong narrative elements, but you can see there's some dice rolling, which I'm a little concerned about. But in general, Lucky Duck, who did Chronicles of Crime, are very good at these app-based games. Anyway, the real question I have is whether the Patreon supporters think I should buy a Kickstarter set on the third-party aftermarket, or whether we should buy the retail copy, or whether this doesn't look fun at all. It looks like a little bit of a mashup between Mansions of Madness and Chronicles of Crime. I'm inclined to want to play through some of this. I suspect there will be quite a bit of other YouTube channels playing through it, though, so it's not like you need to watch this channel for it. But I am curious to play it. And I know you can play with only one character instead of having to manage 3 at a time. So let me know in the Discord or on the Board Game Geek Guild if you think this is something that you'd be interested in playing live with me, and if it's worth spending money for the deluxe stuff. Okay, and then the last thing, I did want to give some special shout out here to the Puzzle People Facebook group, because a lot of the news about a lot of the ways I discover new games are from the Puzzle People Facebook group. And it's quite an active group. Some of the people in the channel are on it, but in addition to just posting about games that people like and selling used copies, there's not much that gets past the eyes of this group in terms of new mystery games. And some of the games that you saw me talk about today, I've discovered on the Puzzle People Facebook group, and I really recommend it. All right, so there's our first episode of Tabletop Mystery Game News, hour and 40 minutes. Future episodes will not be nearly this long. But I'm curious whether you found that at all helpful, or if this is all games you already knew about, if it was too slow, suggestions for the format. Let me know if we should continue this series, how often we should do it, any suggestions, change the way we do this. Is there any other news that I haven't covered in this space that's important to cover this episode this week? Mr. Pretty says, I liked it, but your channel is called Co-op for Two, but you very rarely hit co-op games that are not mystery games. Just curious about your thoughts. Will there ever be more non-mystery cooperative games? Well, that's a very reasonable question. You know, if you've seen the older videos, that this channel, Co-op for Two, was originally started with Greg Olheiser, and we did focus more on cooperative board games. The early year of this channel was very little on mystery games and mostly cooperative games like Pandemic and things like that. But Greg and I have sort of gone our separate ways. And so the channel morphed into mystery games, which turns out I have great fun playing with the channel, with the audience, and discussing them. So probably for the foreseeable future, it's mystery games. Now there is an occasional solo game. I'm not really a solo gamer, but there are some games that I do enjoy playing, like Seventh Citadel. We'll be playing more of that. But for the most part, now Co-op for Two now stands for me and the viewer, you at home. But unfortunately, not much standard cooperative game playing on this channel. Occasionally. Any other news to discuss? It is one of the things, if you're thinking of starting a YouTube channel, you might want to think hard about the name of your channel and whether that's going to lock you in to a particular, even the truth is, even if you don't use a certain name, YouTube does not like when you start branching out and doing different things, which is okay for me because I don't really care if YouTube likes it or not, but you do confuse the audience and confuse YouTube. And in fact, every time, occasionally I'll do a video on this channel about my electronic Arduino espresso machine build, or about a plugin I've written for Adobe Premiere or OBS. And every time I put out one of those videos, the subscribers start dropping. They just start unsubscribing because it's not the content they want. So just something to keep in mind if you're considering making a YouTube channel, but that's okay. Any other new games, new Kickstarters, new crowdfunding people want to talk about? Has anyone seen any good movies or TV? I saw a movie this weekend that I loved. Heretic. Horror movie, Hugh Grant. Loved it. Loved it. Highly recommended. It's a half talking, half action. Can't recommend it more highly enough. Can't recommend it more highly. I've also been watching The Penguin, which is a limited series. I think limited series. But very well acted. Very a different take. I mean, it's a sort of Batman world, but there's no Batman. It's just a sort of a dark crime story. Mr. Pretty said, that's Heretic is on your list along with The Substance. I do want to see The Substance as well. That's the Demi Moore horror movie type thing. I am interested in seeing it. Dari said, just started watching The Penguin. Yeah, I would highly recommend both of those. Anything else everyone is interested in? Anything else people looking forward to? Any games that I keep asking about games, but looks like maybe we overwhelmed you with the number of games mentioned today. I think coming up on the channel soon, we'll be playing through those Masters of Crime and Guilty and some of the book-based cold case games. That game behind me, Alexander Morrison, which is from overseas, but looks like a fairly serious cold case game I'm definitely interested in playing. I do want us to play the last Time Stories Revolution game. Not out yet, but due out fairly soon, is the follow-up to Medical Mysteries New York City, which will be Flatline Miami. And when that game comes out, we will definitely be playing that. That's it. I thought this was fun. Every 2 weeks might be a bit much, maybe every month. Yeah, maybe every month, or maybe a much shorter segment every couple weeks. Buddha Bell says, the game I bought shipped. Okay, but you're not going to tell us what it is. Matt E says, when are you doing the submarine game? The submarine game you're talking about is behind me. It's called Danger in the Deep. It's on the lower shelf there, and it's the precursor to Curse of the Dark, which is right there, which we really liked. So Danger in the Deep, we could play that fairly soon. There is a thread. If you're interested in helping decide what games we play next, what you should do is you should go on the Board Game Geek Guild for this channel. There's a link on the YouTube page. There's a thread called the Game Queue where I post every game I get my hands on and we talk about what game to play next. Go on that thread and say, hey, I really want to play Danger in the Deep. I would absolutely play Danger in the Deep sooner rather than later. Post on that thread if there are particular games you're interested in playing, and you can say when. But basically, there's a lot we have to catch up on. All right. If that's it, I'm going to sign off here. We'll meet sometime this week to play something, and then on Sunday, next Sunday, we'll get back to our normal play-by-mail games. Thanks for joining me. Do let me know if you have suggestions for this series, this segment. If there aren't enough people who are interested in it, I probably won't continue doing it. So you have to let me know if you want me to keep doing these, and let me know about new games that you think should be mentioned on the next episode. And I'll see you next time.